This was supposed to be a video about the government reopening and what the Republicans need to do going forward. However, I had no idea while I was planning that video out that President Trump would decide to just completely sabotage and essentially end the entire MAGA movement. Because honestly, what in the is this?
Republicans have to talk about it later.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
Thank you, Mr. President, for letting all of us Americans know that there's just no talent in this country. None of us are talented. We're all talentless sitting around, ungrateful, complaining about the economy. None of us are able to do anything, apparently. Thanks for that messaging. You know, in a prior video, I literally stated that the Republicans don't actually have a large messaging problem, as much as they do have a problem just making sure that all of the economic activity and growth they're promoting is felt by the everyday American. Trump is running America like a business, and he is doing a good job of that on paper, but Americans aren't feeling it via cost of living and affordability. That was what I originally said. But now, not only do they have that problem, but they do now have a messaging problem. In fact, they have a nearly insurmountable messaging problem because moments like this cost you elections.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Well,
I'll
give you an example. In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. You know, making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing. It's very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say a country's coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles.
First of all, you actually can take people off the line and replace them. You simply move up the next most qualified person, and then to take that person's job, the next most qualified person comes in, and then the lower level grunt jobs also get filled by, guess what? Americans. It is just a damn assembly line at the end of the day. And I refuse to believe that Americans are so unqualified and so untalented and stupid that they can't learn how to do stuff like make batteries. I understand his perspective on this from the point of safety and complication. Yeah, there's probably some merit to this messaging. But to just sit there and haphazardly say, no, you don't have talented people here. It's literally just sickening, because here's the other thing that's wrong with that messaging. If it's the case that we don't have enough talented Americans as it is to do these jobs, wouldn't that mean that it's actually even more harmful to just neglect the untalented Americans, ignore them in favor of importing more supposedly talented immigrants into this country to do the work? How's that actually going to help the problem? This is why this channel, as an American advocate, exists, because I am America first and quickly becoming America only. Instead of spending what I would assume is now closing in on trillions of dollars towards foreign affairs and useless wars, how about you invest just 10 to 25% of that towards Americans and making them more qualified, which I still don't believe is the case anyway. And I'll tell you why I don't believe it's the case. Because if you take a good look at the type of immigrant worker that comes into this country that they're bringing in, and the countries that they're bringing them in from, there is data and proof and research done on this that shows that in many cases, they're not actually more qualified than Americans at all. For instance, take a look at this article right here. 95% of engineers in India are unfit for software development jobs from a study. Programming skills are 5 times poorer for tier 3 colleges as compared to tier 1 colleges, the survey noted. So this idea that there's just this pouring in of talent from these immigrants who come in on H-1B visas is just a giant misnomer. We are being sold a lie when it comes to all of this, and I'll tell you why. It's very, very simple. It literally comes down to money. That's all that this is about. And what this government and now this messaging crisis that we're in when it comes to this Trump administration is all about is basically saying, no, American, you're not worth the money. We don't want to have to pay you more to do the same work that we could import immigrants who we're just happy to let replace you, do the job for a fraction of what you would otherwise demand. That's what this is all about, and it's not fooling anyone. The only problem is I just don't recognize this America Last messaging because it's not what Trump campaigned off of, but they're doubling down on it. This is Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, saying the same thing. We need those H-1B visas. Man, oh man, do we need those talented foreign workers. I mean, have you taken a look around the average American neighborhood? What a bunch of useless retards.
What is the administration's position on these visas?
Now, we're going to keep using our visa programs. We're just going to make sure that they have integrity, that we're actually doing the vetting of the individuals who come into this country, that they want to be here for the right reasons, that they're not supporters of terrorists and organizations that hate America. And that's what I think is so remarkable is under the Trump administration, we've sped up our process and added integrity to the visa programs, to green cards, to all of that. But also more people are becoming naturalized under this administration than ever before.
Oh, that's just great. Thanks for the confirmation that this Trump administration is actually speeding up the process to help pour in more immigrants to replace Americans. So long as they're friendly to Israel and they're willing to kiss Israel's ass, and so long as they're not promoting terrorism here in America, they're more than welcome to just come in here in droves and replace all of those Americans who can't find work. I've already made a video on that. Gen Z, what a job crisis they're going through with this job market. Millennials too. They can't find anything and they're applying and AI's filtering out their applications and not even giving them a chance. And then on top of it, those jobs that they're applying for are being filled up, if not by AI, which is very likely to happen. If we don't regulate AI now, then certainly by all of these much more talented immigrants from all of these other countries, full of superior, much smarter people than Americans. I mean, Americans didn't do anything. It's not like we pretty much invented electricity or made it to the moon or any of that stuff. None of that happened as a result of America or Americans. All of these inventions that you can research that came right out of America, that's our heyday. Those days are long gone. These young generations, the millennials, the Gen Zers, you guys are so stupid. You can't do anything. Just sit back and let us do our thing. Our globalist agenda that we pretended to not have. We are America first. And what that means to us is America should be the first country where everyone immigrates to. That's what America first actually means. It's not about Americans first, silly. It's about America first. Put America on the map and say, hey, we're a melting pot. Everyone come on in. We need the talent. We need much better people than the ones who are born here that are actual Americans. Just like this. The lack of housing. We're going to get to that in a second too. Trust me. The reduced fertility. Yes, let's make sure those birth rates stay low. We don't need the birth rates to be high. We'll artificially inflate our GDP by importing more people from other countries. The lack of workers, that's okay. We're not going to regulate AI in any meaningful way. We'll just replace you with a robot or an immigrant. And it just repeats itself. And if you think this isn't happening, here are some first-hand accounts of it from this guy right here, the Mr. Rogers of crypto on X. Now, I can't verify this story, but why else would this guy just be typing this up for a measly 9,000 views on X? I'm sitting here with a BS, MS, and MBA. I've been laid off by an Indian CEO, locked out of tech by the Indian mafia, and I'm about to lose my house. This has nothing to do with talent in the USA and all to do with fraudulent, nepotistic Indians taking over tech. And I want to just point this story out here too, because Secretary Scott Bessent, he's a smart guy and he is a strong economic brain. He obviously, I think, knew probably right away how poor this was going to reflect on the Trump administration. So there is a report out there that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent clarified that President Trump's plan for H-1B visas is to temporarily bring in expert overseas workers to train Americans and then send them back. But here's the thing. I mean, does anybody believe that? Does it ever play out that way? Oh, we'll just bring them in. We promise just a year or two max, 1 or 2 years, just so they can train enough of you Americans, you untalented Americans. We just need them to train you, and then we promise they're gonna go back. We're sending them back. They'll never come back either. We promise. Do you believe that? Do you believe that anymore? Why should we trust this? And you know, the Mr. Rogers of crypto, he's about to lose his house. Gen Z, millennials, they can't even find a house. And so that leads me right into this next horrific part of the interview here. A 50-year mortgage. I mean, what are they cooking up in this administration now?
Housing costs are still out of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor.
Except that's literally not all that it means. It doesn't mean you just paid over a longer period of time. It means you wind up paying drastically more overall. I mean, this is simple math. Trump actually understands this. And you can see in 2021, before we had this concept now of a 50-year mortgage, we were looking at a 30-year mortgage with a 3% interest rate, $2,108 payment for total interest payments over the course of that, adding up to $257,887. Now, 2025, oh, you can't buy a home? No worries. 50-year mortgage. Just enslave yourself to debt for your entire life for one home. Hope you don't ever plan on moving. 7% interest rate, $3,008 payment, and total interest payments of $1,005,065. Oh, and by the way, if that's too much for you to handle and you're just so outraged at the idea that you can't afford to live where you grew up, if you can't afford to buy a home where you're currently living, well, don't worry, because Ben Shapiro has the answer for you.
If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up, but the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that. The history of America is you go to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here and they're not changing, then you really should try to think about other places where you have better opportunities.
The guy who literally cries every time Israel's attacked and moans and weeps for them on his platform and says Israel has a right to be where they are is now telling Americans they don't have a right to be where they grew up. That's weird. That's almost hypocritical. So we're not even guaranteed. Where we grew up is where we get to stay, unlike our parents. I'm sure most people grew up under parents who lived where they were born, to their parents who lived where they were born. In most cases, I would estimate there are examples of American families that have been living in the same city for generations. Many Americans are attached to the cities that they grew up in. Not to mention, what else is he saying here? Well, what he's trying to also argue is, well, you know, the big cities are more expensive. So you may have been born in Chicago or New York City or Los Angeles or Houston or Dallas or Miami, but, you know, those desirable big cities full of opportunities are too expensive for you. So move away from those cities where all that opportunity is, where the good jobs actually are, where you can actually carve out a great living if you can make it, and go live in your poverty rural areas. Go live in squalor, peasant. What is this messaging? That's the whole point of this video. I mean, are they trying to lose the midterms? Because I think that they just did. I think that they just put the final nail in the coffin with all of this. And it didn't stop there. I mean, this was a train wreck, because he would then go on to talk about college, and not in a good way. What are you doing for Americans when it comes to college? Are you making sure it's a more streamlined event for Americans where they don't have to spend as much money on these stupid loans, where they can go actually learn useful skills that will get them good jobs so that they can afford groceries and pay their rent and eventually own a home without a 50-year mortgage? No. Just like with those H-1B visas and the talented workers they're bringing in from all over the globe to replace Americans, Trump would then go on to talk about how he wants more Chinese students to come here and attend our universities.
You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
I actually love the immediate pushback from Laura Ingraham, who I never thought in a million years would be more conservative than the leader of the MAGA movement and our current president, President Trump. I never thought in a million years I'd see that, but that's what we're witnessing. So what? Half of colleges go out of business. Is that a bad thing? Why is he acting like that's a bad thing? We've seen what these liberal woke institutions that literally brainwash our children produce. We've seen the result of it. We've seen the humiliating examples of man-on-the-street interviews going into these college universities and asking these students to name 3 states, and they can barely do that. To name the 16th president, they can't do that. They can't even name the second president, the first president. They don't know what the First Amendment is. They don't know what the Fourth Amendment is. They don't know what the Fifth Amendment is. They don't know any of it. But they can certainly tell you about how disenfranchised African Americans are in this country. So half of these colleges go out of business. I view that as an absolute win. And we don't have an influx of Chinese students who are coming in to spy on us. Not all of them, maybe not even most of them, but it's proven that some of them have. And China relies on that, actually. We have firsthand accounts of that happening. Let half these colleges go out of business. Even better, let these colleges economize to try to stay in business. Because what would that mean? It would mean facing actual closings, facing going out of business, because that's what college is literally a business. They would quickly adapt. And they would go, maybe we should cut a lot of this useless bullshit that we offer these students that takes up a lot of our funding and money. Maybe you should get rid of that. It's almost as if these students are coming here to be doctors and lawyers and engineers and, useful things of society. Maybe we should cut out some of that woke nonsense. Get rid of the gender studies, that kind of stuff. That's what I could see them doing to stay in business. And some of them would still go out of business. And to that, I say good. But the ones that wouldn't, they'd have to cut a bunch of bullshit. And that's even better, too.
They fancy,
you would have the
historically, the United States.
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think
not only is he saying we're dependent upon China to keep our universities going and afloat, but he just literally talked about black universities. So predominantly black universities are dependent upon an influx of Chinese students to keep them in business. How does that work? How does that? I don't understand it.
It's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure.
And then he ends, I'm not even going to finish this. I can't tolerate it anymore. But he goes on and he says, I want to get along with the rest of the world. I'm here to tell you, as a proud America first, America only, American advocate, I don't really give a damn what the rest of the world thinks. I don't really give a damn if we get along with the rest of the world, because they don't want to get along with us. As much as we help them, all we ever see them do is grandstand against America publicly, even if behind closed doors they kiss ass and they take our money. So f*** them. F*** all of them. Like, our country is literally dying. And President Donald Trump is just so symbolic of that. In his first term, you saw this energized fighter. And he said, you know what? America's declining. We must save it. And he did a lot of good in his first term. His movement has produced a lot of good overall. But ultimately, he failed, even then. And Biden came in and progressed rapidly our country's decline. And then we saw an older emerging Trump come out and say, I'm back. We're going to save it. We got to save it. We got to undo what Biden did. We got to try to get back to what we were, not just in my first term, but 40, 50 years ago. And he's back. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You never see this. You never see a presidency like this. A second term split up. It hardly ever happens. It's a golden opportunity to usher in the golden age that we've been promised. And he is squandering it. And he's just, in my mind, representative of what America is, sadly. I never realized this until the past couple of weeks, but he is symbolic of America. A strong-willed fighter who loves his country and loves the principles of what that country stands for. But he's tired and he's old. And quite frankly, I think he's finished. Now, I went on his True Social because I just was hoping to see something, just something from this guy after this ridiculous Laura Ingraham interview. And there's nothing. And the bottom line is there's nothing. He is now off on a crazy rant again about the Epstein files, which we never got. And he says, the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. And then he says, in other words, the Democrats are using the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to try and deflect from their massive failures, in particular, their most recent one, the shutdown. Now he's calling the Republicans stupid for wanting the answers to the Epstein files. He called Americans untalented. He is promising to allow more, not less, foreign students to come in and take American spots in our universities, allowing for the possibility of an influx, literally, of Chinese spies, allowing this influx of college students to come in and inflate our tuition costs, which will take even more spots away from Americans who now will be literally priced out of that market. And at the end of the day, we're quite literally training our enemies using our institutions and our universities. Then we're replacing the American workers with foreign workers and AI that likely won't be regulated enough under this administration. Gen Z will increasingly not be able to get a job. They can't afford rent as it is. They can barely afford groceries. They're never going to own a home. Not even with a 50-year mortgage, because inherently most Americans look at that and know it's a scam that only benefits the bank. And it all concludes with him during this interview saying, I think the polls are fake. The results are fake of people saying that the economy's bad. It's got to be fake.
Somebody that's
and why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs.
Yep, that's right. Mr. President, I regret to inform you, I am fake. I'm not real. Neither is the entirety of Gen Z or the millennials. We're not real. We're all fake. We're not worried about the economy. You're right. You nailed it. You nailed it. Everything's great. Wonderful. Great messaging, Mr. President. A new movement needs to clearly arise. MAGA did its part. I will say that. MAGA was not all for naught. A lot of good has been born out of MAGA. MAGA inspired the young generations. It just sadly is not delivering. What are your thoughts and opinions on this, though? Let me know in the comments down below. Was this rant on Trump deserved, or should I trust the plan, Patriot? Should I just stay silent and watch Trump work? I understand there's a time element here to this. I still am for the tariffs, and I understand that tariffs take time. Even looking back on a presidency like Reagan, it took 2 years, not one. But the perception of the public is the lowest it's ever been. Trump was up +3 with the youth vote back in March. He's now under by 40. He's negative 40 with Gen Z and millennials. It's not looking good. Public perception at the end of the day is all that matters. It's what wins elections, along with economic popularism. And if our cost of living is too high, the midterms are gone, and so will the 2028 presidency be.